Fantastic. Next question. Chris, you've been learning from Candace. Welcome to La Vida Rosa. I'm your host, Pinky, and today we're going to be talking about Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 8, Part 2 of the reunion. So if you'd like to see more, then just stay tuned, like, comment, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into this video. Y'all, I have to say, watching this show, this reunion in particular, it's like watching a Black Mirror episode. That's like the only thing I can compare it to. Almost like a parody, but not like SNL. I don't know. There's just like a very advanced level of gaslighting going on here, and I didn't like it. So we pick back up with Mia and Wendy bringing up the fact that G told all the husbands that Mia's ex-boyfriend, new boyfriend, side man during the marriage believes that her child Jeremiah is his and was trying to come to the house and demand, I guess, to meet him. Like, that was a little bit crazy. Like, this whole situation, I feel like people are downplaying how, and yes, this is reality TV show fodder, but when you look closer into it, it's some serious stuff going on, and there are children involved. Mia claimed to have slept with him around the same time that he was with G, around the same time the child could have been conceived. That's crazy that it's even possible for this man to think that was his child. And she claims to know for a fact that it's G's and she knows her body or whatever. Girl, if women knew their body that well, there wouldn't be a need for Maury or Jerry Springer. And it sounds like y'all need to go on Maury ASAP so this child can at least have a peace of mind, since y'all are putting it out there to the masses. At least let him have peace of mind to know who his biological father is. He deserves to know at this point. At some point, Ashley pipes up. First of all, this is the first time we heard from Ashley. Ashley and Nneka have been virtually silent this whole reunion. It's crazy. But she did pipe up and say that Jeremiah does look like G. You know, her and Candace were debating back and forth whether or not the child looked like him or whatever. And it was just becoming a whole spectacle. Thankfully, Karen stepped up and was saying, like, let's think about the children. Let's leave the children out of it. And it's crazy. Karen was protecting him more than his own mother was. It's like that shameless attention seeking that Mia has, it's going to end up hurting those children in the long run. So then they talk about Karen calling Mia out for dating a rapper. It turns out her T was correct because he does have some rap songs. But he's a radio personality. And they were trying to go back and forth over the details of when she started hooking up with him. It don't even matter because it's not like we're going to get the truth from Mia anyway. Mia going to lie about 5 times before we get to the truth. You got to back her into a corner before you could even start to get on the right path to the truth. Andy tried to accuse Mia of pulling a Robin and hiding the problems in her marriage on screen, but Mia was like, oh, no, you got to be quicker than that. I did tell Robin that I wanted to hire a divorce lawyer. She claims that the problems that they had nothing to do with Ink or G's finances, how when you were cheating on him before, during, and after the marriage with Ink. But she did say that he would wake her up at 4 a.m. to have business talks and emptied out her bank account when she was getting ready to leave him. And, you know, overall, he's just very manipulative, controlling, and vindictive, because she didn't mention this part, but the fact that when they broke up, he reached out to her ops husbands trying to tell all her business. He was online every other day, spilling tea, going live. I believe that part of it. I do believe that he wanted to get back at Mia for that. I don't feel like it's one or the other with them. Both of their behavior is completely unacceptable, but neither one of them truly get chastised. The most anybody said to Mia about the situation is, you should have had your own bank account. Anytime something wild and crazy came out about Mia, all we saw was just crazy looks. But we didn't see anybody actually confront her. You know, Robin tried to confront her on where she lived. That was light work. If this was Candace or Wendy, best believe they would be getting a 3rd degree, okay? That's another reason why y'all ain't beating the colorism allegation. She also says that now she's supporting him financially. When Andy said, well, at some point you alluded to marrying him for money, But then you said you had more money than him when y'all got married because of an inheritance. Apparently 3 of her grandparents passed and left her some money. And Mia, I'm sorry, that's hard to believe, because why was you stripping then? People don't normally strip unless they need the money. Point blank, period. And if you were a whole heiress, I just don't see you down to the strip club. I don't. She said after they got married that she realized he was functionally bankrupt and living above his means, trying to impress her and have a big wedding. And so basically you got played. You thought you was digging for gold, but you was actually getting fool's gold. But it's also what you get for being a mistress. So then Andy brought up the fact that she's being sued for not paying her rent. And she said that she has paid her portion of the rent, but G didn't want to move out when she wanted him to. So therefore, she said she's not going to pay his part. He's going to have to pay that. She also said that they can't get divorced until June because they are selling businesses. Mia had the nerve to chastise Wendy and Candace for not reaching out to her after finding out about the divorce news. And I'm like, you mean the lady who you lied on her husband and saying that he was trying to flirt with you, and the other lady who you physically assaulted on camera? And I love how Wendy basically laid that out to her, like, we are not friends based off of that alone. And the Green-Eyed Bandits had the nerve to be over in the corner talking about but she apologized and they was all over each other. It don't matter, because y'all ice people out for less. People can apologize over and over and over and over and over, and you'll hold a grudge until the end of time. Hypocrites. And I love that Wendy also mentioned that regardless of whether I reached out to you or not, I never brought up anything that Gordon had to say. And it was some salacious stuff that I really could have put out about you that I haven't even said until today. You should at least see that there was some sort of respect there. And Karen was over there saying, well, I heard the stuff too, and I didn't say anything about it, and I reached out to her. It's crazy. She has more respect for Karen, who called her but spilled her tea about ink, and don't have no respect for Wendy, who actually kept your secrets. Plus, Mia, you are not a victim in this situation. You are messy, and this is the outcome. This was not a devastating divorce. Like, I've just been binge watching Married to Medicine. Cecil and Simone divorce, that's devastating, okay? Because nobody saw that coming, and they've had a strong marriage for like 20 years. UNG, he met you in a strip club, cheating on his wife, had you flued out, okay? You was cheating on him, y'all entire marriage. Ain't nobody crushed that y'all are getting a divorce, except for your children. So then we move on to Jazelle, and they play her whole package, and at some point in the package, Mia tells Wendy and Candace that Giselle's father is in the hospital. And Wendy responds with, well, she had no sympathy for me when my mother was in the hospital and she called my mom evil. I felt some type of way about that. Giselle's calling Wendy all types of lies, saying, I didn't even know your mama was in the hospital. I did not know that. And that is a lie. Now, look, you might not have known her mama was in the hospital, but you still called her mama evil. You said it while she was being hospitalized, whether you knew it or not. Why did they not play a flashback of that again? Yeah, once again, Jazelle is never wrong. She could never possibly be wrong. And what they do is they'll jump on a fact in a situation that's inconsequential and harp on it to avoid accountability. You are still wrong. You call her mama evil. And honestly, if you say one wrong thing about my mama, it's up from there. I don't see how we could ever be friends, especially if you don't apologize. How am I ever supposed to be civil with you and relate to you and you talk bad about my mom? So I don't want to hear it. They always hold Wendy and Candace to these morals that they don't even follow themselves. They bring up the fact that Giselle's father had passed, and she talked about how great of a man she was, what he meant to her, and they had a celebration for him instead of your traditional funeral, and she was there for him when he took his last breath. And honestly, even when it got to the subject, when she feels like she's about to get emotional or cry, she always tries to throw it to someone else or basically say, next topic, I don't want to talk about it. She avoids her emotions at all costs. She doesn't even acknowledge her own feelings. So how could she possibly be empathetic towards anyone else? I feel terrible that her father passed away, especially in the way that he did. I know that was horrible. So I am empathetic towards that. And so was everybody else in the room. And so when Candace was emotional and shedding tears, Andy called it out in order to bring out that humanity, show the humanity in Candace and in this situation. And I just thought it was so ugly how when he brought it up, Mia was like, oh, well, she cries at the drop of a hat. And Jazelle undermined that even further, saying, oh yeah, she's just making it about her. Weren't you just crying? You saw how quickly she went from that emotion to none to go in on Candace was wild. That really should have been a moment where they should have at least been able to find some sort of common ground. Candace could share that empathy and she could receive it. But no, Jazelle has to be Jazelle. And she's going to be a jerk. She's going to be a mean girl until the very end. She always has to save face at all costs. In the worst ways. And now I understand why on one of these reunions, Jazelle was like she had to go to therapy to understand what empathy was. Now you got to be really cold in your heart. You are a whole first lady. You didn't have any empathy during those years. You have children. Even her daughters have said that she doesn't have feelings and things like that. But you could tell that she didn't, because even while Karen was grieving her parents at the reunion, she still had her foot on Karen's neck. I just find it hard to give her a pass because she's going through something, because she doesn't give other people a pass. So then they bring up the whole situation of Candace and making faces while Jazelle was talking about Grace going to school. And I love how Karen pointed out, all of y'all do it. All of y'all do it. Y'all all make faces while each other talks. But Jazelle jumped on Karen. No, I'm not going to let you do that. That was about my child. They shouldn't have been doing it. And that's when Candace came in and said she regrets that Jazelle weaponizes her children. And it was funny because Karen was like agreeing with her when she was like, I regret. Karen was like, okay, yep. And then she was like, that Jazelle weaponizes her children. And her face was so molded. Candace is not shading those children. I just don't believe Candace or Wendy was meaning any harm to those children at all. Jazelle did this another time with Wendy, claiming that she was giving her daughter the stank eye. Why? What? For what reason? I think anytime you open your mouth, they're going to make a look, because guess what? Every time they open their mouth, you make a look. Wasn't you making looks and acting funny and not speaking and being rude at Wendy's husband's event? And I'm with Candace. You do weaponize those children just like a Karen would. Wendy said that she did congratulate Jazelle on her child being accepted into school and even asked her if she would be pledging. And Jazelle claimed that she was lying, and Candace confirmed what Wendy said, and they claim that they don't have that footage. Like, how can this show be any more about? This is what I mean by this feels like a Black Mirror episode. What you mean? Y'all film everything, even scenes where we don't see what's going on, where y'all couldn't catch the physical footage, but y'all had the microphones to pick up on it. Y'all didn't have no sort of audio, nothing. And then the fact that they were so quick to tell Andy and his, oh, no, we don't know nothing about that. Did y'all even look? Plus, we can't go by what Jazelle says. She'll lie quickly as well. We saw how easy she lied last reunion on Chris, and they pulled up the receipts. So then they brought up Jason. First of all, when we saw them together in that kitchen, they didn't even have chemistry as a friend. They didn't even have chemistry as an acquaintance. It almost felt like they were on a blind date. It's almost as if, like, they didn't even feel like they knew each other for real, let alone in a whole relationship. Did they kiss? Like, I just don't see it at all. Even if she is interested in younger men, not that one. Even if he is interested in older women, not that one. And most likely it's going to be a white woman. That's why he got caught up out somewhere kissing a white girl. And so Jazelle kept saying, well, as long as I didn't see it with my eyeballs, we're not exclusive. And, you know, he could do whatever it is he want to do. You don't care because you don't really care about him, because y'all are not in a real relationship. Why isn't he sitting behind you? If we saw him on screen and we keep getting these questions about him, why is he not behind you? Where is he at? Why does she keep getting to skate by with these fake relationships? and not called out about it. She didn't get one question alluding to that being fake, because a lot of people felt like he's her fake boyfriend. But Kenya gets that every year. Anytime she has a boyfriend, people always think that it's fake or that she bought him. How come Jazelle is not getting that? Oh yeah, Mia brought up the fact that she's seeing other men. Clearly, we know this whole thing is a charade, and whoever you're talking to in real life, who you really like, you'll never bring him on screen again because of what happened with Sherman and Monique bringing on his ex-wife and breaking y'all up, because you actually did like Sherman. I believe that. I guess she said she ain't never bringing her real love life on TV again. The problem is she don't bring nothing else, because even that whole situation with her ex-husband was fake and contrived and for TV. I don't believe any of it. Her own daughters didn't believe it. So then we move on to Candace's segment. First of all, they address the shade she threw at Drew Sidora, basically when her tour manager was like, you know, we could bring Drew Sidora out when you go to this location. And she was like, no, we can bring somebody else. And Andy basically had her address that. And it just seems like Drew was doing bad business. Like, was she trying to steal one of her crew members or backup dancers or something like that? I couldn't really get a grasp on what exactly happened because they were talking around it. But I'm not shocked. Drew is kind of shady. So then we get to Michael's defamation lawsuit, and it was dismissed because I'm pretty sure Candace was able to prove everything she said was true. Michael did all of this to be vindictive and nasty, and I guess try to drain her of money. I'm so glad he lost. And I love how Ashley, whenever she talked about the lawsuit, even though she knew nothing about it, she had this big cheesy grin on every time she would talk about it. And oh, maybe she should watch her mouth next time, only to be molded when it came out that Michael lost. Once again, she claimed she knew nothing about it and she had nothing to gain. Yeah, the same way you're divorcing Michael but massaging his feet every night. Girl, don't nobody believe you. Then we talk about this whole Robin and Candace thing. I thought we already talked about all of this stuff. Oh my goodness. Their drama going back and forth, it feels so middle school and juvenile, both of them. Okay. So, Robin, do you think she was coming for your job by tweeting about her and her situation online? And Robin said, that's just not something I think a friend would do. And I'm just thinking in the back of my mind, well, neither is pulling out that beatbox so you could play what Candace had to say at the table, only a section to try to make her look bad when she wasn't even talking bad about you. You weren't never a friend of Candace. Candace, to defend herself, she brought up an exchange that they had. Robin posted a picture of her with long hair, and Candace said something like, okay, hair. Robin responded with, it probably makes me look even more like a white adjacent looking woman. So I imagine that can't be a good thing. And so she was referring to when Candace kept referring to Jazelle as a white woman, and she was offended by her comments, even though they were directed at Jazelle. Candace said during that exchange, Robin never responded, and then the whole situation with Juan went down, and she reached out to Robin trying to, comfort her or whatever, and Robin didn't respond to that either. And so when the paywall thing came out, she gave her true thoughts on Robin because she felt that they just were not friends anymore. And it's not like she was saying all this stuff unprovoked. She knew that Robin was a part of the calculated attack against her husband. And to see that she was putting all this stuff behind the paywall, she truly felt backstabbed. She even still apologized to Robin once again for hurting her. And Robin didn't respond because of the colorism allegations. And that's when Robin starts crying and shaking. I'm so uncomfortable. I just didn't know how to navigate, and tears, shaking, white woman tears, shaking. And you're just showing your privilege right here. The fact that you never had to have a conversation about colorism. Dark-skinned black girls, darker women, they don't get that privilege. They don't get to walk through life blindly because it affects them on a daily basis. And Candace was like, well, I'm well versed in race conversations because it was a common discussion in my household. And she mistakenly thought the rest of the women did too. And so this one, Jazelle popped off and ran down the list of why she is able to have these conversations. Her dad was a civil rights leader. She was in a black sorority. She went to a black college. Your sorority has a history of colorism with the whole paper bag test. That's just a fact. You might as well be a white person saying, oh, I have black friends, when they're being accused of being racist. Just because you're involved in those things and in those communities means nothing. You also married a dark-skinned man and you have darker children, and that still doesn't excuse you from possibly being colorist. Not to mention, you and Robin made watermelon and fried chicken jokes on your podcast talking about James Harden. Very racially insensitive, especially as black women. It sounded like a Jim Crow meeting up in there. And the fact remains, Robin, you can't be too uncomfortable with race, because you and Jazelle were the race police in season 1. Constantly trying to tell Katie how she should identify and how black she was and how she had to choose blackness over her other side. And it was a huge point of contention at the reunion for that season. Ashley and Katie told y'all to y'all face that y'all could pass for white. Jazelle even admitted that she could, but she wants to be perceived as black. Robin took a genealogy test and found out she was 59% white. So why are y'all acting so surprised and offended and caught off guard as if Candace was the first one to tell y'all that y'all are white adjacent? And then not only that, Candace went out of her way to make it clear that she doesn't think either one of you are colorist. And you're still sitting up crying and shaking and because you don't want to have the conversation. You know why you don't want to have the conversation? Because you benefit. Me, as a light-skinned person, I know I benefit from colorism. And I'm not going to sit up here and pretend like it doesn't exist, right? Because I would much rather speak out against it and lose some of what I might gain from it so that the next dark-skinned man, woman, or child doesn't have to suffer because of it. You know, I love that Wendy spoke up about this because she's very eloquent with topics of this nature. And she basically equated it to a white person being defensive over the word racism. Instead of looking at their actions to see how it might have affected someone and, you know, just reflect and see how you might be contributing to the problem, get defensive and go off and bristle up and cry and deflect so you don't have to have any sort of accountability in this situation. This is where Karen spoke up and said, there's no better group on the Housewives that could talk about this subject than ourselves. How? When half of the cast doesn't even want to acknowledge that it exists, and 2, don't want to talk about it. Like, Karen sounded absolutely crazy in that moment. And I love that Wendy shut that down and said they don't have the range. And they don't. And Karen, I thought you had more sense than that. But clearly you don't. She was absolutely correct. Nobody has the range. And here go Robin proving their point over to the side saying, anytime we have a conflict with a brown person, we are colorists. No, it's not the fact that you're having conflict with a brown person. It's how you hold a grudge. It's how you treat them after that. It's how you ice them out. It's how you're able to make up with Karen. It's how you're able to make up with Ashley, although they've said and done worse to you. Karen can call Jazelle a broken whore from Hampton University, but she can't forgive Wendy for saying she had low self-esteem. And the colorism shows up in the production and editing as well. It's the difference in how Monique was treated after her altercation versus how Mia was treated after she assaulted Wendy. Jazelle came in with bodyguards, acting like, I'm just so scared. I don't know what Monique is capable of. Pushing for her to be fired and pushing for her to be excluded versus you actually condoning fighting when it's against somebody that you don't like, Wendy. And Mia didn't even get a slap on the wrist for what she did. Jazelle doesn't even show her day-to-day life. I didn't even know Jazelle had a sister until last season. And she's been on the show since the beginning. And she still gets first chair, except for this season. She still would get first chair every season. Robin gets to hide her infidelity and still be featured on the next season. Meanwhile, Kenya from Real Housewives of Atlanta, she gets married off camera and she's not brought back the next season. Y'all do and say everything to fall into that colorist bag. Y'all are not even self-aware to know how y'all come off, to try to hide it. So then we have Nneka. Mind you, Nneka has been a glorified audience member on this reunion. She has barely said 2 words, and if she did, it's been more like audience questions. And when they were in her dressing room, Mia straight up told her, you're going to have to speak up. Then her husband was trying to encourage her and give her advice as well, and basically telling her to speak up, not let people overtalk her. And she snapped on him so bad, I thought it was uncalled for. She told him, either you support me or you can go back with Juan wherever he is. First of all, that is extreme shade to someone who is supposed to be your friend. I know Robin is going to have a problem with that. Why is she always so rude and emasculating to him? Like, what did he do or say that was that bad for her to snap on him? It's almost like she was taking out whatever embarrassment she had out on him in that moment. And I don't know, never see the love between those two. So then they bring out the husbands. And it turns out Happy Eddie, the little ganja that he's selling, made $2 million in sales in 6 months. He must be learning from Candy over at Real Housewives of Atlanta, because Candy takes whatever shade, read, whatever they throw at her on that show, and she's going to make a business out of it and get rich off of it. Okay? That's exactly what Eddie did, and I am not mad. $2 million. So then we get to G. Mia exposed the fact that G would go on group infidelity trips with his other married friends, and they would take their side pieces out of the country. And Mia said she got to see both sides of it, because she used to go on the side chick trips, but then when she got married, she got to go on a trip with the wives and get to see their trips that they go on. This is why I have no sympathy for G, because you knew exactly what you were signing up for with Mia. And Mia, I don't feel bad for you either. Like, all of this is trifling. And I just don't understand why nobody is being gagged by what is being said. Why nobody's calling her trifling. Why nobody's saying this situation is crazy. Like, people, they'll give a look, but they won't actually call it out. Andy brought up the fact that Chris was missing this season. And Chris was like, well, I'm not going to be where I am not wanted. And being around these women almost messed up his livelihood. Why would he want to come around when people are making up accusations about him that could cost him his reputation and career? Andy asked Chris if he thought that Robin was in on the scheme that Jazelle and Ashley and Mia set up. And he said that he doesn't want to talk about this anymore. He hasn't talked about it since the last reunion. He just wants to move on. Andy brought up the other woman that came out online and said that she had an affair with him and had a whole abortion and retracted it soon after. Chris was like, I don't even know who that woman is. I ain't never met her. Robin had the nerve to speak up and try to start an inquisition on Chris. And when I tell you, I would have to sit up and wait, baby. Don't even respond. Robin, until Wandering Dixon makes an appearance at this reunion, and I can ask him some questions, and I can go in and we could talk about the nail salon lady, the washing machine lady, and the hotel lady, you ain't got nothing else you need to say to my man. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to even speak up. I don't understand how the most mouth is coming from people that don't even have nobody sitting behind them. I feel like Candace was definitely checked out of this reunion because she don't play about Chris. So I just couldn't believe she was taking that or allowing that to happen. She kept trying to drill in the fact that the woman had screenshots, and you're saying that she had fake screenshots, and just kept going on and on and on. And Chris just kept saying, I never met her. I never met her. I never met her. Even if he lying, you can believe one, but she can't believe her man. Are you crazy? Andy asked, did Candace pay the woman off to take back her statements? Candace said she did not. And she also felt that the woman could have possibly been paid by one of the green-eyed bandits. And that's when Jazelle spoke up and said, the woman said over and over that you don't need to put Jazelle in it. Jazelle didn't have nothing to do with it. And it's like, why would that woman be going so hard for you in particular? What incentive would she have to defend you and say that you had nothing to do with it? Makes you wonder. That's when Chris was like, well, she feels how she feels about it. And Jazelle was like, that's not a feeling. That's what she said. That's when Chris had to break it down like a kindergarten teacher. Candace felt that way, much like how you felt the way you felt 2 years ago. So let her be acknowledged for her feelings. And so she didn't have nothing to combat that with, like, oh, Oh, you're right. Fantastic. Next question. Chris, you've been learning from Candace. He packed her up and sent her on her way so easily. She had nothing to say. And Jazelle, whenever Jazelle gets red, she always makes that confused face. Yeah, he ate her right on up. I was so here for it. And the fact that he was standing up for Candace in the same breath, I wanted to stand up and clap. I wanted to give a standing ovation, child. He did that. Okay, he shut Jazelle all the way down. You really shouldn't even have anything else to say to Chris at all. I love that he also called everybody else out, including Andy. He called out the fact that Jazelle lied about saying that he made her go to that hotel room and was proven to be a liar when they pulled up that clip, and everybody just moved on like nothing happened. Nobody even acknowledged that fact. But Candace needs to be responsible for her words and constantly needs to apologize. But Jazelle doesn't. And it's crazy. Nobody even still in that moment acknowledged it. Andy was on hush mouth and it was just completely brushed over. I'm telling you, from Andy to production to Jazelle to Robin to just sickens me. I cannot. So then Andy brings up the fact that Juan never comes to the reunions and the other men do, regardless of their scandals or what's going on, they show up. The men didn't really want to comment on it, but G was like, this is not any disrespect to Juan, but I show up because I'm supporting my wife. Well, now she's my ex-wife. And I know Robin felt deep down inside hurt and abandoned. I know she felt so small in that moment. Even G showed up. Finally, the episode ended on a cliffhanger of G. Basically, it felt like he was alluding to the fact that he got a DNA test for the child. I don't know what it was. Yeah, that was it for the episode, y'all. I'm really disgusted. But y'all let me know what y'all think down below. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? I would love to hear your opinion. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'll see you in my next one. Peace.